بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Welcome to our lesson on the theory on worship of the course Philosophy of Ethics. In the previous lessons, we already examined different theories on the philosophy of ethics, such as emotionalism, conscience theory, and just in the last session, theory uh, the, theory of beauty to explain the philosophy of ethics. So now let's move on to the theory on worship as a way of explaining the philosophy of ethics. By the end of this lesson, students are expected to first explain moral action as a form of worship, distinguish conscience from unrecognized worship, distinguish conscious from unrecognized worship, compare worship with earlier moral theories, and assess how intention, niya, and knowledge deepen action. Niya and ilm deepen action or amal. So the opening question that we need to contemplate on is, can a person worship Allah without recognizing the act as worship? We worship Him without being very conscious that it is an act of worship. What do you think? Yes, moral action may be worship before the agent names it so. Why? Because there is conscious worship as well as unconscious worship. In the case of the former, the person knows Allah, intends nearness, and performs the act as devotion. Or as in unconscious worship, the person is drawn to truth, justice, or sacrifice without recognizing the divine orientation within that attraction. So worship gathers the insights of earlier moral theories that we have mentioned. For example, the case of emotionalism on the basis of love, that devotion includes attraction and affection, but directs them beyond the isolated self. Also, knowledge and will. The worship knows a higher good and disciplines desire in order to choose it. And of course, it has also the element of beauty and conscience. How? The good appears sacred, beautiful, and inwardly commanding to the person because it bears a relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, moral consciousness and consciousness of Allah can differ in clarity. That's why we do not deny that non-believers perform admirable acts. But we argue that the sacred quality perceived in such acts is fully explained only when its relation to worship and the divine is recognized. For the simple reason that it could be implicit as well as explicit. When we say implicit, senses, we sense the sacredness of good, and the person may not name its source, and he or she just acts through partial awareness. Now, when she is explicitly aware of it, She knows the divine relation and intense nearness to Allah, that is qurbatan ilallah, or what we call as lillahi ta'ala. So in that case, it unites act, the motive, and worship, or the act of ibadah itself. Now, any account of worship asks four questions of moral action. First is the object. Second, the intention, awareness, and transformation. What ultimate good does the act serve? Second, is the act performed for praise, outward praise of other people, reward, duty, or Allah Ta'ala? How clearly does the agent know the act's sacred relation? And finally, does worship reorder my appetite, fear, and self-interest? Now, in many texts, we are introduced to the different degrees of worship, which disclose different moral motives. One motive is fear, that is the usual. The second is reward, and the third is gratitude. When our motive is fear, that is what we call in literature as the worship of abidin, or servants. The person obeys because he wants to escape punishment. He is afraid of punishment. Restraint is real, but is still tied to fear. Now, the second type of worship, or degree of worship, is what we call as worship of the traders, of the tujjar, or the merchants, where the person serves in expectation of compensation and paradise, with the expectation of thawab and entrance to Jannah. Although these degrees of worship are recognized, we know that the highest degree of worship is what we call as degree what we call as the worship of the free, whose basis is no other than gratitude. The person worships because Allah is worthy, and worthy to be worshipped, and goodness is love for its truth. That is, we worship Allah because He is worthy to be worshipped. We have no other nature that we know of other than worshiping Allah Ta'ala. And that is the worship of the hur, the worship of the free man. So the same outward gift can carry different inward meanings. For example, giving in public. Three students donate the same amount. One fears criticism, another seeks recognition, and another quietly answers a need for Allah's sake. So the visible result may match. They all give. The moral and devotional depth does not. They are different. Intention does not erase consequence, but it changes the act's inner form. So in terms of act, the same material help is given. But in terms of motive, one is fear, another is exchange or gain, and the other is devotion. And as for awareness of the one giving, the agent may know more or less of the sacred relation. And we could say that the third one has the most awareness of the sacred relation. And as to the depth, worship joins good result with transformed self. So, as a takeaway for this lesson, let's contemplate on this question. When does a good deed become worship? Think of a good deed. And when will it become worship? So let's identify the outward good that we think of. Name the governing intention, meaning the intention behind, and explain the act's relation to Allahu Ta'ala. So that's all for our lesson for today, which is about theory on worship. Next meeting, we will proceed to another topic. Thank you so much. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.